I admit that the blues is my favorite music, but I know for the economy that's not necessarily so good. I think Spain now is in a position that you could argue is better than it was 5 years ago. Back in 2007, the problem was no one knew about Spain's problems, or very few really understood that, and no attempt was made to do anything about it. Now we know more or less what the problems are, or were back then, and this is a great opportunity to fix those problems. And if that's done in a reasonable way, but partly through government policy, especially focusing on what it takes to get research and development done to improve the productivity of the nation compared to other nations, and so on, then the rock and roll should follow. Well, the example of Chile was meant, and the contrast with what Mexico did at the same time, was meant to illustrate how important it is to, if the banking system is in trouble, how important it is to fix it quickly. In Chile, in 1982, because of falling commodity prices, falling copper prices, high world interest rates, those factors exposed big problems for the banking sector in Chile. Banks accounting for half of the nation's deposits had severe liquidity problems. The government took over. They decided which banks were viable for the long run, and those banks were re-privatized within 3 years. New regulations to avoid mismanagement of banks were put in place, and all of that came at a high initial cost. The cost in terms of lower economic activity for the first 2 years, but then Chile started growing, and it's been the fastest growing Latin American country ever since. Scandinavian countries had a banking crisis in the early 90s. They did something more or less similar. The government took over and then quickly reprivatized most banks, at least the ones that survived. And the reduction in growth turned out to be very temporary, and then countries started growing again. In Spain, it's important to fix the banking system because entrepreneurs rely on credit to put their innovative ideas to use. A nation that's going to grow depends critically on such innovative activity. Productivity has been kind of lagging in Spain. I discovered in a chart yesterday by some other speaker, and it's important to do something to promote research and development, to promote education, which is something I understand Spain is already doing, and that's a good thing. Well, that's hard to say. If I were European, I would be very frustrated by the lack of clarity in what governments plan to do. It seems that they're going from one crisis to another, and then they make some new decision that no one was sure was going to be taken, and instead of clarity and credibility from the very beginning. Business people, the innovators we talked about who could possibly help make nations grow, They don't like uncertainty about the future. If they make decisions, those decisions make for new activities, like building new factories, office buildings, new machines, inventing new production processes, new products, and so on. All of that involve high cost initially, with returns coming over many years in the future. And these returns could be negatively affected by bad policies in the future. The more clarity there is in government policy, the better it is for the investment environment. And that seems to be what has been lacking, and what has put into question the survivability or sustainability of the European Union, the Eurozone as a whole. Will some countries drop out, or will they not? If they were to drop out, that decision should have been made right away, taking the cost, and then avoid the continuing speculation about will Greece drop out, and if so, will people start guessing about the next, etc. That kind of uncertainty is very bad.